So, last thing we have to look at here are some other things that maybe kind of started before the stock market crash and also accelerated it. The first thing is farm debt. If you remember, we talked about the McNary-Hagan bill that was never passed, and how you're going to keep them on the farm after they've seen Perry. And so farmers leave the idea, they leave this in droves, and so there's massive farm debt, and we can't figure out a way. Remember, we can't pass that farm relief bill because it's seen as a bad thing. And so the senators there, we already have the Ford-Macomber tariff in place, which is a high tariff. And so what do? They go and raise it again. Hoover signs a tariff bill as Bora and Senate seeks cuts by flexible cause. New duty goes into effect, and this is now called the Hawley-Smoot tariff. This is a high tariff. It is a protective tariff, and the idea is that people will not buy the inexpensive foreign goods, but rather buy American, and it was designed to help businesses and banks. But the problem is, if we raise our tariff on somebody from England, keep in mind we are selling some stuff to England as well, and so what do you think England's going to do to our stuff? Will naturally raise their tariffs, and so that's the next thing. I have their foreign tariffs on the U.S. Is maybe a retaliatory for what we were doing. And shame on us to think, well, you never do that. But they did do that. And ultimately, it hurts our bottom line profit because once these people who were relying on to buy American, if we go back to the Depression, now 1 in 4 don't have a job. And trickle-down economics, we're waiting for the government to help us, but they're going to help the businesses first. We can't help. And so this makes things a little bit worse. To further complicate the problem, in the 1930s, we have the rise of European dictators, and mainly there are 4 of them: Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Benito Mussolini, and the last one is actually in Asia, but we kind of loop them together, Hideki Toyo. But these European dictators came in the Depression, because the Depression is worldwide at this point, and this is some common themes they have. They hold power by force and fear. They pass laws to forbid political competition. They appeal to people's pride and prejudices, and they all suffer from hard economic times after World War I. Anytime you're in a rock and a hard place, you're going to be more susceptible to listen to the stupid ideas. And so people in Germany, for example, listened to Hitler and said, yes, we'll do whatever you want us to do. Tell you where the Jews are? Absolutely. And so there you are. Same thing with Stalin or Mussolini, any of these people. And so the European dictators rise because of the worldwide depression. And going back to what Woodrow Wilson said, if you have peace with victory, you're going to have a loser, like Germany, and they're going to fall to somebody like Hitler. So we have to be careful. Now, last thing is I am going to show you some clips of this as we go through today. A wonderful movie was made called Cinderella Man. In Cinderella Man, it tells the story of a boxer named Jim Braddock who loses his boxing license, breaks his hand, and he kind of fights through the depression, and common people loved him and thought he was great. Now he makes an amazing comeback, and all these things that are in the story, and I'm going to show you because it's a good way of pointing out life during the depression. But he basically refused to quit, and it cost him a lot of his pride and a lot of things that a lot of males would have trouble with doing, but his number one priority was his family, and that's what showed up here. And so it's a really good story. It's a Ron Howard film, and they actually used a lot of the radio coverage of the actual fights in the boxing, and everyone wants to see the boxing. Now, the last thing that you're going to have to do here with this one is describe how a high tariff led to the rise of European dictators. And I talked about that just a second ago. We had a high tariff, what happened next, and then what happened to cause the dictators. The next little bit we're going to have here is living in the Depression. Now that the Depression has hit, what was life for American people? And that's an interesting thing in itself.